Hello, I'm Royce Kruger. I'm here to share with you another lesson from the 8 keys. In this particular lesson, what we're going to talk about is key number 8. We're going to discuss improve continuously, or what many people call continuous improvement. It's vital in our lives that in order to achieve happiness, to achieve wealth, we need to continuously improve ourselves. The fundamental reason why we need to do this is the world outside of us is rapidly changing, and that requires us personally to rapidly change in order to keep up with the change that's about us. If we don't change, we don't improve, we don't keep up to the improvements, we do not stay competitive, and it's very difficult for us to achieve wealth in those types of conditions if we're not competitive in improving our strengths. So this is a very vital key. It's one that is fundamental in business. It's also fundamental in our personal life. So let me stage this and put it together in the context of all of the other keys. Key number 1, we've been talking about principles and the value and importance of principles. We need to find the principles that help us to continuously improve. Those principles will help to guide us to the best direction, get to the greatest excellence that we can achieve in our life. Number 2, we want to choose as part of our core beliefs to continuously improve ourselves, because if we continuously improve, what we will do is we will become better and better, and we'll be known for growth and development. Other people will see that. They'll admire the excellence in us. Plus, we'll have the deep personal satisfaction of doing that. Number 3 is to make goals. It's important that we always improve our goals in our goal-setting process, that we continuously develop the greater heights and greater vision for ourselves. Human beings like to grow. We're a human being. We need to challenge ourselves to grow and to improve each day. Number 4, interpersonal relationships. One of the greatest investments I've ever made in my personal life is the investment that I have made into improving the relationships of people around me. It's wonderful to improve those relationships, and those lifelong friends are some of the best investments that I have ever made. Number 5, of course, we need to make a plan and execute a plan. We need to have a plan for continuous personal improvement. It's really important for us to do that, also to continuously improve so we gain greater wealth. Of course, we need to measure our progress in improving, because it'll help us to define the gap, and once we have that gap defined, what we can do is find the improvement to overcome the gap between where we want to be and where we are today. And when we continuously improve, we'll continuously make that gap smaller. However, an interesting thing is I found is we'll also continuously raise the bar of what we want to achieve. So what we're always doing is running after that gap in our life, trying to close something that seems to continuously elude us. Number 7, what we want to do is to make sure we find ways to improve the way we share our wealth, we share our knowledge, we share the finances that we have. This is going to be very vital to us, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. So this is the concept of what we're talking about today. Let me give you just a quick outline of what we're going to share in this lesson. First, I want to define continuous improvement. Next, I want to talk about the importance of understanding Peter Senge's idea on continuous improvement of systems thinking. We want to take the 8 keys, and I want to break down each one of these 8 keys into its own smaller process and talk about the continuous improvement of that process. We want to talk about our character, and we want to talk about continuously improving our character. We want to talk about wealth and continuously improving our creation of wealth. And we want to talk about the impact that happens cumulatively in our life when we continuously improve. And then we want to make the application to you, and of course in the ending make a challenge to you of how to continuously improve in your life. So let's launch right into the first discussion of this. The first point I want to make is it's natural for us as human beings to want to grow. We grow in our body, we age, we grow in our minds, and we age. We get older and older, and we mature. It's important for us to move from our childhood to our teenage years into our adulthood, become full functioning adults. And to do that, it requires us to improve. And I find the very smart people are the people who set goals and in continuously improving their life every single day. And these are the people that do it systematically. The concept of continuous improvement is the applications of systems and systems thinking. When we systematically, we take step by step, do that over and over again and make that process better and better. It's that personal Kaizen in our lives. And when we do that, we will find that we achieve personal excellence. We find excellence in our character. We feel the satisfaction and joy of that. We are able to better contribute to society around us, and we have much greater influence in helping people to make good happen in their lives. We also find that continuous improvement is a great principle that we must live, not only for excellence, but we see it modeled for us in sports and music and technology and science and all the fields around us. We see people who are continuously improving. We see it in business. So we want to study this and apply it in our own personal lives and make sure as one of the 8 keys we value this continuous improvement concept. It should be, at the end of the day, continuous improvement should be a chronic habit in our life. It should be something that we can constantly do. It should be just like eating or sleeping. We should think of improving just as we would eat or sleep. Just as we would exercise our body and our mind to improve, we want to make sure that that's a chronic habit in our lives. So we want to make sure that we impact all of the other 7 keys as well as the 8th key in continuous improvement. We know that continuous improvement was popularized by people such as Deming, as they took the concept to companies, and companies saw that they could continuously improve to get higher quality, and when they did that, they had more valuable products. They increased their profitability, and they made greater contributions to people's lives. Well, the same concept can happen to our life. When we continuously focus on our lives and how to improve it, and we take it step by step, we can add greater value, and we are more valuable in the workplace. It helps us to accumulate more wealth. It also helps us to accumulate more happiness, more joy, more peace, more satisfaction in our lives. In this course, we're going to continuously improve each of the 8 keys and show how we can improve each one of those. I want to take time to talk about how each key is its individual process and how that individual continuous improvement on each one of the keys will help you to make excellence be easier for you in your life and get greater satisfaction. As I said earlier, what we want to do is be able to close the gaps we feel in our lives by continuously improving and dramatically increasing our capability of contribution. Let me share with you just a personal story to launch this that I think will be useful. I hope it's meaningful to you. It certainly had a lot of meaning to me when I did it. Years ago, I was in a major training organization and they merged with another company. During that merger, I felt it would be important for me to spread my wings and go out on my own and do my own consulting and training. I felt I was ready to do that. So I did. I went out and I started teaching training internationally in many countries around the world. I spent months out of each year traveling to different countries, presenting seminars and workshops to people that I had built a relationship with in preceding years. They were wonderful enough to hire me to go in and to do training for them. After a year of doing that, I went back to each one of them and I asked a simple question. I said, "How am I doing?" I remember one gentleman, he kind of scratched his head, looked down a little bit, and he said, "Well, I guess okay." And I was really surprised because I personally thought I was doing a wonderful job because they continued to employ me. We're getting good marks, I thought, from the students. And one of them went on to say, "Well, Royce, you know, after 3 or 4 months, we weren't quite sure that we wanted to continue to work with you. But we've noticed in the last 4 to 6 months, there's been a dramatic change in what you've been doing. And because of that, we've been encouraged to continue to employ you to do this type of work for us." They said, "What is it that you've done, Royce, that made this dramatic change?" I thought about it, and I went back to my thinking, and I realized this is what I'd done. After you teach a seminar or workshop a few times, it becomes kind of rote memory, and you just do it the same way over and over again. It becomes quite comfortable and easy just to do it the same way you did the last time. And I challenged myself to work into continuous improvement. What I said, each seminar or workshop, I'm going to find at least one thing to do better to make it better than the last seminar and workshop. And I don't care where I'm teaching it in the world, each country, each place I go, I'm going to do it better. So I'm going to find a way to increase my skills and my excellence in front of each new group I'm standing in front of, and even the older groups I'm in front of. And over time, I continued to do this for several years, and I found that I got very high marks. It increased my income, and it increased my influence. And it also increased my self-esteem and belief and my satisfaction in the work that I do. And I believe it's today one of the reasons why I'm able to go into major corporations and consult with them. I can do training with individuals. I can do advisory work with them. And it's based upon that continuous improvement that I decided to make by reading the books, learning how to improve the content, learning how to improve my teaching technique, learning how my delivery process, until it became something that I felt very satisfied with. In fact, today, I've even found ways as I've looked at my outline to make this presentation to you to improve it over the way I had it outlined yesterday. So I continuously try to improve myself in the presentations that I make. So I really believe deeply in this concept of improve continuously. Now let's look at this and look at the core of continuous improvement. The core of this continuously improving is a concept that is taught in the world, and it's called systems thinking. Let's look at systems thinking. Systems thinking is, when you diagram it simply, it's A, you do A, then you do B, B equals C, then you do A again. You measure and you improve. Linear thinking says you do A, then you do B, then you do C, then you do D, and that's the end of it. When you see it as a circular fashion, what you start to do is you start to see the interrelationship of each one of these items with each other. And it also creates a diagram where you can continuously improve each one. It's not just linear in your life. This is the way that you'll be able to find greater wealth and greater happiness, is by applying this same type of thinking, and I want to show you how that works. You'll notice that each time I've shown you a diagram of the 8 keys, I put it into a cycle, because I wanted to put continuous improvement in the center of that to show you that as you improve that cycle, you can get better and better, because it works like this. The first time you go through the 8 keys and you do all 8 keys, you make a complete loop. And you do well, because you'll discover the principles, you'll work on your core principles, you'll work on the goals, do a plan, and you go completely through the cycle. But then you want to improve the cycle, so you make it a little larger, it becomes better and better, and it's like a spiral, an upward spiral, that this continues to get just better and better and bigger and bigger. So your A, B, and C cycle is a spiral outward and upward. And that's what continuous improvement is because you get better at what you're doing, your quality becomes higher, you do more of it, your influence gets greater, and your happiness becomes greater. And what happens in the case of the 8 keys, your wealth increases, because you're continuously improving, and it's an upward spiral. So systems thinking says to look at things in their relationship to each other. It can be as simple as A, I want to fill up the bathtub with water. B, turn on the tap. C, watch the water level. As the water level gets to the top or gets to the bottom, I adjust the tap, and then that gets to the full bathtub, and so I see this cycle of filling the bathtub. So these are the steps that people take in their lives. We look at it ourselves. We see someone that we admire. That's a goal. We like the characteristic of the honesty that they have in their life. So B, we put it mentally into our plan that we're going to learn to be great, have greater honesty in our life and have greater integrity. C, then we start applying that. It starts to impact our behavior. D, we see the results that comes from that, and we measure our results, our integrity against the integrity of the other person. We see, is there a gap in there? If there is a gap, we continuously improve. If there's not a gap, we can then just continue to do that cycle and make sure that we have the integrity that we want to have, that honesty. So it's really important that when we look at continuous improvement that we see as a system of improving ourselves every single day. I like to improve my mind every single day by reading. I like to spend at least 30 minutes reading some subject matter that increases the quality of my mind. I like to increase the physical capability that I have by exercising, eating the right food. I like to increase my social environment by talking to new people or old people and deepening my experience with them. I like to build myself spiritually by contemplating those values that are important to become a quality human being in life. And I do this cyclically every day. I try to improve upon it and make my life better. So this is the concept, the core concept of what we call systems thinking inside of continuous improvement. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to break each one of the 8 keys down into a cycle and show you how you can improve each one of the 8 keys. So key number 1 is where we discover principles. When you are discovering something and you're discovering principles, you could use the word learn instead of discover, so you might want to say learn principles. So when you're learning something, what is the process you go through when you learn something? I would say that step number 1 that you use is you observe or you study. You find some source of input to bring that into your mind. So this is where new information enters your mind. From that observation and study, you go on to number 2, and you start thinking about that concept. You start to evaluate the information that you have in your mind. And usually when you evaluate it, you shorten it, you condense it down so you can remember it, and you identify those things that you want to remember. So you make a short list of the things that you want to remember. Okay? And out of that short list, you find, in the case of character development, if you're discovering principles for character development, you discover the principles that you want to live. Then what you do is you make a commitment to live those. And once you're started to commit to live those, you make a plan for achieving it and so forth. And then you compare that with your learning in the beginning, and you've got this cycle of learning that you could then compare the results that you had from your learning to where you started. And so this Discover Principles is a learning process that has various steps in it. Now, the steps you may use for learning and what I learned that I have for learning could be different. You may, for example, observe and study, evaluate, make a long list. You may not look for them as principles, you just may look for them as concepts that you want to live in your life. And then maybe you don't commit to live them at that time. Maybe you set them aside and say you'll come back to them later. And then eventually you get to the commitment process, and then you work towards living those. And the living is where you get to your results. So what we want to do is look at each one of these steps, each one of these keys, the various steps they have to build the learning process. So just to taste this for a minute, what I'd like you to do is go to question number 1 in your workbook and answer the question, describe your own personal learning process. Think about how you learn. What do you do as step 1? What do you do as step 2, step 3? What are the vital steps you take in order to learn each day? Key number 2 is, of course, where we choose our core beliefs. How do we purposefully choose our core beliefs? Well, when we do this, we might say that when we choose, we select. In other words, we select from a list of beliefs that we see around us or values around us, and we use some purposeful or unpurposeful processes for collecting those beliefs. What I'm trying to do is get you to purposefully choose. So let's say that the first step that you make is you make a list of desirable values. You might use the discovery process we talked about before, the learning process, to study some, but eventually you come down as part of your selection process, you make a list. Okay, so you have a list of those things. From that list, what you do is you say, I know I can't live all of these values. For myself, I had 13 pages of values, and I broke those down. They had 28 values per page. So I had far too many values to try to live at any one time, even though I felt those were the ones I was living at the time, but I wanted to improve in those short list of values. So what you do is you make, in this case, you make a short list of values. Now these will be priority values because you will believe they will give you some sort of result, or you think they'll be associated to change in your life. The next thing you want to do, the reason to have the core beliefs, is you want to define them well so they have meaning in their application. So what you're going to do is you're going to define each value by placing a behavior with it that demonstrates what that value means. So maybe what we've done is, let's say we had a list of 100 values here. We make a short list of 7 values here. And let's say we had integrity, honesty, we had respect, we have industriousness, and so forth, as those are the values that we want to live. Then over here we might take one which is integrity. And for the definition of integrity, you would say something like this. I will have the integrity when I think something, I will say that thing, and I will live that thing that I promise. So my thoughts will be like promises. So someone of high integrity is a person who lives to the promises they make in the words that they make each day. So after you define the values we've then selected and defined, we would probably then say the selection has been made, but the value of making the selection is we want to go ahead and live those values. So you then enter a process of how to plan and live those values. And then you see what your results are, which should be fourth. You'd evaluate your results. And you compare those results against this long list that you have here, or the short list that you've created. You might evaluate against the short list. That would be the easiest way. And you say, did that give me the results I wanted, or do I need to add a value or take away a value in my list of living? So this is how you would select, in a process for selecting your core values and beliefs. So question number 2 in your workbook is, what will you do to continuously improve your mission statements, your values, to select values that are really important to you? So take just a moment and write those down. Key number 3 of the 8 keys is we want to make sure that we write our goals. Now, writing goals is a process of focus, because there are many, many things, many, many decisions we could make in this life. So it's the process of getting us down to focus. And again, it's selection from many to few. So what we want to do is we want to say, who do I want to be in the future? And we want to visualize ourselves in the future, just in general terms. What do I want to achieve? What are some of the achievements I want? We want to visualize that. So that might be possibly step number one. And from that we would say, okay, if that's who I want to become, what are some of the specifics I see? Specific goals. What are some of the specific visuals that I see in my mind of what I want to achieve? That would be number two. So you would say, I want to be a person of wealth. I want to be a person of influence. I want to live in nice homes. I would like to enjoy good clothes. So a specific goal would be that you're going to get an education. And let's say in this case that you want to become a doctor, because you think being a doctor would help you do that. So you choose a goal of becoming a doctor. The second thing is you would want to make a goal of what college or university you're going to go through, etc. And you would make goals that would support getting you to this vision. You would then take those goals, and because you're practicing the principle of focus, you would put those in a tool where you could focus on those tools, and you would probably prioritize them inside of that tool of which ones you're going to go first, which ones you're going to work on first. Then what you'll do is you'll probably work on an execution plan, implementation plan, and you'll break that down into daily bites of how you're going to achieve it. So that would be step number 4. Then you're going to do it. Then you're going to compare to how you're achieving your goals here, and it becomes a cycle. So key number 3 then becomes a focus cycle, and it helps you to determine what you're going to focus on. Now, my cycle up here is not the only one you can have. You can do other types of steps. You have to make this work for you, something that you do cyclically, something that's somewhat natural to you, but yet presses you to change a little bit in order to get better behavior. So let's suppose right now that you're doing this for character development. You're making goals for character development. What I want you to do is go down to question number 3 and write some character development process for focusing on goals to improve the character in your life. Let's say, for example, you wanted to become industrious. How would you visualize that being an industrious person? What would you do? What goals would you set to become industrious? How would you put that in your tool, and how would you live it daily? So take just a few minutes to write that one down. Key number 4 is we're going to build our relationship skills. Now, skill building has an interesting process to it. Fundamentally, this is a process of skill building. Skill building usually requires a lot of repetition. And what you want to do in skill building is you want to identify the skills that you want to have that will help build to better relationships. And so when we identify these skills, what we want to do is we want to look for models of people who have the skills that we like, and let's see what they are doing and watch what skill sets. We're going to ask, what are they doing? Then what we're going to do is we're going to define what we see that they're doing, define those skills. Let's say, for example, we find out that they are very good communicators. So step 1, we want to identify by observing other people. Step 2, we want to then define specifically what they're doing. Say, for example, it's communications. And then we want to ask the question, how are they doing it? How are they communicating? Or how are they applying that skill in their life? What are the steps that they're taking? Observe concretely how they're communicating. And that would be 3. And then what we want to do is we want to then replicate that We want to replicate that in our lives. In other words, what we want to do is we want to model it in our own life. So when we see this, the steps that they use here, those skills, we want to take those same steps and do them. Again, it's a do it. And see if that helps us increase our skills to the level of the other person. So steps 4 and step 5 get us to the do it. This is where we are, the process of skill building. Now, you probably have a process for skill building that you use. You probably used it in sports. You probably learned it in how you improve yourself in typing on your computer. There's all sorts of skills that we have. There's many, many skills. What would you do if you wanted to improve your skill set? I would suggest that this would be one cycle. So on question number 4 in your workbook, write the process of how you will do your skill building and how will you improve your skill building for yourself. Take just a minute to do that before we go on to key number 5. Now, the reason that we're improving each one of these keys in the process that we're following is because when we start improving each one of the keys, it starts to work together synergistically with us, that we'll find dramatic improvement in our lives by doing systems thinking and dramatically improving each one of the systems. It sounds a little complex right now, but it sounds complex because maybe you haven't been thinking about what you're doing as part of a system. And that's why I'm trying to demonstrate each one of these as systems thinking, to give you an idea that will open you up to possibly adopting the concept of systems thinking to make the continuous improvement that you want in your life. Let's go on to key number 5. Key number 5. This is where you execute your plan. Now, execution is where you implement. It's honestly, to me, it's where you do it. That's the execute part, but then there's the plan part. That's putting together the steps. So what you want to do is you want to define the steps. Step 1, define steps to get to your goal. So if you say, I want to have $1 million in the bank, that's your wealth goal that you have. You want to define the steps of how you're going to get there. So what are the steps you're going to take? And inside of there, you'll have things like get the education, get a job, make the proper investments, and those types of things. Once you have your steps defined, what you will then do is you will prioritize the steps. What you'll then do is you will put those in some sort of focus format, in a focus tool for yourself. And then you will start to act on implementing those goals. That would be number 4. As you act, you'll start getting your results. You'll start comparing that to what you wanted to get in your original goal, and then you have put together your do it or your execution plan in key number 5. So question number 5 is, what are you going to use for your execution plan for wealth development? What are you going to do for character development? And what focus tool are you going to use to help you get there? Number 6 is wealth sharing. This is where you share your wealth. You share your wealth because what you want to do is you want to become happy, you want to become satisfied, you want to contribute to the quality of life of other people. You might say that this is an enrichment process where you enrich your life by enriching other people. So step one, to do that, you need to have some skills to share, some knowledge to share, and you need to have some financial to share. So you set goals for creating skills, goals for creating the financial. That might be the very beginning step. Then you would say, where are you going to share? How are you going to share? You would make some plans on how you do that. The next step you'd have is you'd say, maybe you would say, who is it that can help me? Or how will I exactly go about doing this? By the foundations you would choose, the forums where you would share your knowledge, etc. So you start doing that plan next, and then you get into number 4, which is you simply do it. Then you measure the results and see it helps if it gets you to the financial goals that you set up. So 4 and 5, as you do it, you measure the results. And so you have another cycle that you're using in your enrichment process, which is key number 6. So in question number 6, it asks you to stop for a moment and say, what am I going to do? What process am I going to use to continuously improve my ability to make sure I share wealth? Key number 8 is to continuously improve. When you continuously improve, I think your improvement process is just exactly what we've been doing already. So you choose a key you want to improve in. You create a plan. This becomes your goal up here. You create a plan. Then you execute or implement around it. You measure your results. And then you revise according to your results. This is probably the simplest form that you're going to follow with almost every single step, is because you start with a goal, you make a plan, you execute your plan, you measure your plan, and then you revise and adjust. This is the core, to me, of continuous improvement. This is the core of it. Now, really, now on question number 7 that I have for you is, how committed are you to continuously improving? Is it something that you want to do in your life? Do you see the benefit of it? Just answer that question. And also you may, if you're committed to doing that, what rewards do you want to achieve in your life? And write down how you're going to improve it. Now that we've looked at each one of those these keys in continuously improving, we've looked at each one of these mini cycles and each one of these. What I'd like to do is I'd like to look at 2 types of continuous improvement versus just improving each one of these. And I want to talk about wealth improvement and character improvement and look at those separately. Because the 8 keys is all about helping you improve your character to find happiness, improving your wealth to help you get to happiness, and to find that wealth beyond money. And usually that's found in the character you develop. So let's look first of all what we would do to continuously improve our character. Because what we want to find is happiness. I'm going to use as my model Benjamin Franklin. Because what Benjamin Franklin said, he says, I'm going to make continuous improvement. He didn't use the words continuous improvement. He said, but I'm going to improve and get better. What he's going to do it is every day he's going to improve. Every day. That was his goal. And he was going to improve his character by living one of the 13 virtues that day that he believed in, those 13 virtues. Now, what he did is he set the goal here, did it every day. Then what he did is he wrote it on a card. And what he would do is he would carry that card with him, and every day he would look at it and evaluate how well he's doing. So step one, he said, I'm going to live these 13 virtues. 2 is I'm going to live one of them at a time, one at a time. And what he's going to do is he's going to spend a full week on applying those. So he'd carry that card with him, and he would do it for a full week, and he'd focus on it. Then he would live that virtue. And what he would do at the end of the day is he would evaluate his progress every day. If he was doing well at the end of the week, what he would do is he would select another one of the 13 virtues, and he would start the cycle over again. If he did not, if he was not happy with these results, he would take it for another week. I believe in your character development, what you should do is look at yourself and look at one aspect of yourself that you want to change. Say, I'd like to build my relationships with other people. What I'd like to do is build a much better relationship with them. And so in building a better relationship, I want to be a better communicator. So that characteristic myself, I want to be a better communicator. So you'd say, maybe what I'll focus on is listening. I'm going to be a better listener. So you'd write on your card of one of the 13 characteristics you want to have. You say, I want to be a good listener. So you'd carry that with you, and it would say, listen. What I will do is I will repeat back what people say to me so they know I've heard their message. Then you go out and practice doing that, and then each day you would evaluate your progress. If you felt at the end of the week or at the end of 2 weeks you're better at listening, you might then go on to the next one, which is you will compliment people on good things, and then you continue to do that cycle. So on question number 8, what I want you to do is to select some characteristics you're going to improve in yourself, and then 2, develop a process of how you're going to apply that, and what are the steps that you're going to take to improve yourself. The next area we want to continuously improve in is wealth, in our wealth creation. The world is crazy about increasing their wealth. They truly want to earn more money. They want to do more things. And so they're constantly out chasing the money. They are trying to find ways to get rich. Most people don't think about getting rich one day at a time. They think about almost instantly becoming rich, all of a sudden, by a great big idea or a brand new business, or they're going to find a quick way of getting rich. It's kind of a get-rich-quick scheme. So there's always that quick that's put in there. Now, I've seen some people get rich quickly. I've seen that happen in my life, but usually that quickness took them 2 or 3 years. It didn't happen overnight. But most people that I've seen become rich in their life, become very wealthy people, substantial assets and so forth, did it consistently, one day at a time, making each day better than the last day and conserving their wealth, spending properly, making good budgets and making good business decisions, working on good financial principles. And usually, many people, it takes them a lifetime to become wealthy. Now, maybe you want it fast. You don't want to wait a lifetime. Maybe that's part of your goal. That's fine. But most people, it takes learning and becoming wealthy. It takes some time. I would suggest to you, become realistic as you can about how are you going to create your wealth at a pace that you can live and that you can work to. So let's first of all say probably the first step you're going to take is to have very precise and clear goals. A goal of I want a lot of money is not a good goal. I want $1 million is a good goal. I want $1 million in 3 years is a very good goal. Being precise, being specific, setting a very clear goal of what you want is probably the first step you'll take in your wealth creation. Then you want to visualize that goal as if you have it. Visualize yourself possessing the goal. See yourself as if you have it. and then daily and consistently work towards achieving that goal. Keep it ever in front of you and make sure that it's a focus. So you want to put that goal where you focus on it. Then what you want to do is make sure that, of course, that it's in the tool. You want to find a way of measure the progress. So you've saved a few pennies today, a few dollars, a few yen, whatever it is that you're saving, but you've made progress towards your wealth creation goal. Another thing I think you should do is, in the midst of all of this, is you may want to ask yourself, why is it that I want my wealth? Really define the why. Not just the what that you want up here, but why do you want it? Because as you start getting into the challenge of getting the wealth coming, you need to have a lot of persistence and drive and courage. And if you don't know why you want it, then you're not going to be able to achieve it. So this why, to determine the why you want the wealth, is going to give you the enthusiasm to continue, the power to continue. Then, of course, you execute your plan. Then you measure. Then you start over again. My guess is in your life you're going to go through this cycle several times. You're going to do it over and over again. So what are some of the wealth creation goals that you're going to make? This is question number 9. What wealth creation process are you going to use? What will be important to you to do consistently day by day in order to achieve the wealth that you want? I'd now like to give you an example of someone that I know personally who's done all of these things, who understands continuous improvement at a very deep level. This person is probably one of the great heroes in my life. I'll leave him nameless just simply because he would prefer to be nameless. He would not like to be named. This is a great man. He's well known. This is an individual that has mentored me. And I've noticed in this man an insatiable desire to continuously improve. He wants to become a person that is better tomorrow than he was today. He does it in all areas of his life. He's lived a long life. He's getting into older years of his life, and he's done so well with his life. He has many children, many grandchildren, and he's a very happy person, and he's a very wealthy person. And I've watched him, and I've listened to these speaking to me as he's mentored me, and I picked out one principle that he did very, very well, and that was continuous improvement. In fact, I can remember many times he would come into my office and he'd say, Royce, what are you doing to improve your life today? What are the steps you're taking to become better than you were yesterday? And he kept that constantly in front of me. Many times I would get caught up with just getting through the goals, just getting through the challenges, just getting through the work that I had in front of me. But what he wanted me to do is not only do that work, but take the time to continuously improve myself. And he challenged me to do it in 4 areas of my life: physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually. It was a great challenge. And frankly, in the beginning, it was difficult for me. Later on, it became easy for me because it became a chronic habit in my life. I would not be standing in front of this camera today recording this for you if it was not for the life of that man and the model that he shared with me. Because he was able to go to great heights and have great influence in people's life. And he spawned around him many people like myself that he inspired them to inspire others to continuously improve. And that takes me to the second person that is a great friend in my life. He has great mental capabilities. He's one of the brightest people I know. And I watch him consistently, day by day, polishing his mind, improving his physical ability, improving his social ability, and changing and becoming a better person. He's very dynamic. And you can become the same type of person if you will take the time to plan and say, every day I'm going to get better. I'm going to find better principles to live. I'm going to improve my core value structure. I'm going to set excellent goals. I'm going to build excellent relationships with people. I'm going to implement what my plans are so that I achieve wealth and happiness. I'm going to measure my results, and I'm going to close the gaps by continuously improving. I'm going to share my wealth. And what I'm going to do is find myself in a position that is better tomorrow than I am today. I really believe in the principle of continuous improvement, and I exhort you to apply it in your own personal life. So, for this total lesson, everything we've gone through, what I'd like you to do is just do this. Sit down after you turn off a CD and say, what are the steps that I'm going to take to personally improve myself? Once you define the steps, what I'd like you to do is put it in your personal focus system. Find a way that you can focus on it each day, and make sure that you have it in definable, measurable steps. And when you do that, I'm sure that you'll have great success in doing that. Let's talk about now quickly what we're going to do in the next lesson. The next lesson is the 12th lesson in this series. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of the 8 keys and I'm going to integrate them together. I'm going to review them and summarize them so it gives you greater meaning. And I'm also going to talk about, hopefully, the tangible results you've been getting by following the exercises I've been giving you. And hopefully that'll guide you towards the greater success you want in life. So I look forward to chatting with you in the next lesson. Thank you.